Hi everyone, how you doing?
Good morning. So a couple people I'm still trying to get. One's on an airplane, so he's going to call in.
Okay, cool.
Um, just
All
trying to get some
right.
other people on here. So I'm just going to mute my end here.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, Christy. How you doing?
Good. How are you? Good.
Yeah, thank God. Good.
Yay.
Okay. Everyone in. Charlie, I can see something going on. I can't see your face. Okay. Should we get going? What do you say, Rabbi Uzia? Should we go?
Yeah, you could start. I'm going to try to get some people on the line here and see where everyone's at.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, my mom is with me. She just wanted to say good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hope you're doing well. All right. So thanks everyone for joining me and us. And today, so the topic of today's discussion was human suffering. So, hey Charlie, how you doing? Good. So it's a topic which I think needs to be explained a little bit, and the key factor which I want to look at is the difference between suffering and inconvenience. No, I think we go through a lot of life with many inconveniences. There's a lot which is inconvenient, but not everything which is inconvenient is suffering. So I want to understand what exactly is suffering. What does that mean? What does suffering mean? In terms of our understanding, what does it mean to be suffering? And that's number one. And number two is, why does Hashem allow that to happen to us? So I want to go around, maybe just to kick off. If anyone has any ideas, what makes a person happy? So you can start off. Sylvia, do you want to say hi?
What makes a person happy?
Yeah.
When things are going their way.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one. And Charlie, what any thoughts? Suffering, what do you think? Why does it happen?
I'm sorry, repeat that again?
Why does suffering happen? What's the point of it?
Oh, what does suffering happen? It's the same thing with happiness. We're happy when things go our way. Sometimes suffering is when we don't get our way, when we don't have the control that we want. Sometimes we will take things personally and it'll make us depressed or whatever.
Right. So that's very much on point. And so I think one of the big topics which I want to look at is that there's a book called Orchas Sadikim, and in that book it's called The Gate of Happiness. And it has an interesting way of perspective, which is quite useful. It says that happiness comes to a person when they experience a lot of life without any setbacks. So basically, unhappiness comes from having setbacks. And when we have setbacks that cause us to fall, cause us to get into a depression, to feel frustrated, and that's kind of the root or the start of suffering. Now, it doesn't happen for no reason. And what the sages say, who's a happy person? Someone who's happy with their lot. I don't know if you've ever heard that before.
Yeah,
Who's heard that? Anyone heard that before?
that was me, Hannah.
Hannah, you've heard that?
Yes.
So that's why I'm not happy. I don't have a lot. But if we're happy with your lot, and right, so that's what makes you happy, right? Being happy with your lot. Now, so I want to go over and just explain one or two things that we often speak about the meaning and the purpose of life, and a lot of people talk about it, that we all have a purpose and a meaning. but a lot of people don't tell us what that purpose is, and how we're supposed to accomplish that purpose. What's the reason? How do you get around to doing that purpose? So the first starting point, the kickoff point, I want to start off with a little story that's brought in the Talmud. There was once a boy who was climbing up to do a commandment. But in the Torah it says that if you honor your parents, the reward for that is having a long life. And there's another commandment, which is if you do a mitzvah called Shiluach Hakan, which is sending away the mother bird. Right? So it's the case, if you have a mother bird, you chase away the mother bird and you take the eggs. The Torah says if you do that, you also get a long life. So there's a story in the Talmud of a boy who's told by his father to go and climb up a tree and go and send away the mother bird. And so he's doing two things. He's honoring his parents, he's honoring his father by climbing up the tree, and at the same time he's sending away the mother bird. So according to what the Torah says, he should be getting a really long life. And the boy, while he's climbing up the tree, slips off the tree, he falls back and he dies. Now, there were sages that were standing there and they said, "No, what's going on?" God said that if you do these two things, you're going to get a long life. And clearly we see that the boy was following God's will. He was doing the instructions, doing what he was supposed to do, and the very opposite happened. Okay? Now, that often happens to us, right? And that is when we feel we're doing the right thing, we're doing the best that we can, we're doing what God wants, we're trying our best, yet things aren't going the way we wanted. Right? And that often causes us to start questioning God. Where's God? Why is God allowing this to happen? Why is God not helping us? Why is there no one there for us? And this is going to be intertwined also with the next class, and that is to do with free will. So this is a very important concept. And the idea that we need to first understand is something that the sages say, and that is, I'll tell you in Hebrew and I'll translate it. It says, "Olam hazeh doime leprasdor bifnei olam haba." That this world is a corridor to the world to come, which means that our shell, our human body as we're experiencing our lives right now, is not the be-all and end-all. This is just a corridor. We're just passing through this life in a transient phase, getting to some higher purpose. We're here to achieve something. Now, what are we here to achieve? That's the question which a lot of us want to know. And there's an answer which is the same for everybody and yet very unique for each person. The answer which is the same for everybody is we're here to achieve spiritual perfection. Now, what that means is we are here to rectify certain parts of our soul. So just to explain it a little bit more. When God made the world, so he made the world with different elements. So for example, the world was created with kindness, with cruelty, with happiness, with sadness, with all kinds of polarities, with opposites. And what Hashem wants us to experience is actually a combination, a whole bunch of all the different things. So for example, that Hashem wants a person to experience wealth and to see how do you fare. Now, if you have a lot of wealth, what do you do with it? How do you, so one lifetime, you may experience your life being very, very wealthy. Right? In another life, you may experience yourself being very, very poor. Now, that is all part of a bigger picture. God is actually putting your soul through different trials and tests to experience different experiences. So one life you'll be a woman, one life you'll be a man, one life you'll be tall, you'll be short, you'll be happy, you'll be sad, you'll be disabled, you'll be able, you'll have every single kind of possible combination that can exist, right, in order for your soul to experience life through that lens and through that perspective. And through that perspective of having that experience, you will actually grow your soul. So the bigger picture is always to remember is that our current life is only one slice of a much bigger piece of the equation. Right? Your soul is very, very old, maybe thousands of years old. So your little sliver now, for 50, 70, 100, 120 years is just one section when you are being challenged in one particular area. In other lives that you've had, you'll be challenged in other areas. And the goal is to ultimately be able to cope and serve God under every single possible human experience. So I don't know if that makes sense to you. Right. It's basically it's zooming out and seeing the bigger picture. That we're not just here for here and for now, but there's a much broader spectrum, something much bigger going on. And God, who is above time, is managing your life and seeing, what do you need right now? What rectification does your soul need? And based on that, God is going to be sending you different challenges based on what this current experience or version of you in this incarnation requires, to achieve that level. So very often we're going to be challenged in an area where we haven't been challenged before. And the best way to grow and to actually know something is by experience. I'll give you an example. If you have to learn how to drive a car, now you could read a textbook, and know exactly, how to, when to press an accelerator, when to change gears, when to turn, when to this. So you can learn to fly a plane, from a textbook. But until you've actually sat behind the wheel, until you've actually experienced it, you don't have the knowledge. You're lacking in understanding. So you can read about charity, but you don't know if you're generous until you're in a position to give, right? And you don't know what poverty is until you've actually experienced poverty firsthand. Now, you don't know what kindness is until you've experienced the ability to be kind. You don't know what cruelty is until you've experienced the ability to be cruel. So God will put the person in all different sorts of situations, and not just in one lifetime. It will span over many thousands of years. So I think the first thing, whenever we come across a life challenge, is to realize that our soul is being tested. So that's advice number one. And that is that we need to realize that our soul is being tested for a particular challenge. Now, I don't know where it comes from, but a lot of people have this notion that God will never give you something that you can't handle. I don't know if anyone's heard of that before, but quite frankly, it's not true. Okay, and anyone who's lived a little bit of life knows, right, that you will be challenged in things that you can't handle, and it's specifically the fact that you can't handle it which makes it a challenge or a test. If you could handle it, it will be easy. It will be an inconvenience and not a test. It's not a suffering. Suffering, by definition, it's too much for you, and it will probably hurt you and break you. But that's the whole point of it. It's going to push you to a level that you've never been before. It's going to push you out of a comfort zone. But Hashem is with you through that, and you're going to be taken through that journey in order, that God's purpose is not just to break you, it's to mold you and to give you a new skill which you never had before. Had you never experienced that, you would never know if you could be able to do it. So that's kind of the test with Abraham, for example. So Abraham was given a test. He was asked to go and slaughter his only son, Isaac. Now, why is it a test for Abraham? Now, the commentaries explain, and they say, for Abraham was a man of kindness. All he did his whole life was being kind. Now, when he, for example, he circumcised himself, after 3 days, he was upset that he couldn't have guests. Now, most people would be only too happy not to have guests, no one's disturbing you. But Abraham was so bothered by the fact that he couldn't help others, that God had to send him guests. Now, for a man who's experienced kindness his whole life, the challenge for Abraham is, God says, I can see you very kind, but can you display cruelty? And that's Abraham's test. Can you be cruel to others? So Abraham is now being tested in an area where he hasn't experienced that before. And it's actually interesting. Only when he starts he's about to slaughter his son Isaac, an angel comes out from heaven and says, now I can see that you fear God. Now, what happened beforehand? Now, first you could fear God. You could see that he feared God before. But until that point, God doesn't see Abraham ever being able to display cruelty. And only once you could see Abraham can do cruelty when he wants to, he can be kind when he wants to, then at that time you can say that Abraham's a complete person. Now Abraham's soul can now move on to different tests. And we are all kind of linked and part of different souls. So whatever challenge a person's going through, right, this is an important thing. I wrote in the book something which is important, and that is on the journey of life. So Hashem doesn't just challenge a person arbitrarily. Right? There is a system involved, and hopefully we'll see about it when we look at reward and punishment. God is looking to, Hashem is looking to give a person opportunity, right, to correct his ways. Now, there's different categories of human beings. There's what we call a tzaddik. A tzaddik is a righteous person, and then there's a rasha, a wicked person. And this was one of the questions that bothered Moses. That Moshe Rabbeinu himself had this question. The question was, Moses looked at the world and he saw good people are suffering and bad people seem to be doing well. Right? And I'm sure you've noticed that yourself. You know, you've seen this. I'm sure everyone's seen this. Right? It seems it's very arbitrary, very random, you know, totally inconsequential. A person can be doing the right thing and he's struck with, you know, one bad thing after another. And a person could be doing what's seemingly wrong and everything seems to be going his way. So you ask yourself, where's the justice? Is there really a God who is managing the world if it just seems so chaotic? And so this was the question that that Moses himself, you know, asked God, can you please show me a way? Well, how do you run the world? That was Moses' question. It's probably the deepest question and the most difficult question which we have. And that is, how do we make sense of it all? How do we relate? How do we see that God is doing what seems to be, you know, right? That He's actually running the world in a way which is fair. So the concept, which is quite important, that is that the ultimate purpose of the soul is to be rectified, which means that if a person does something that's going to distance his soul, blemish his soul, God wants to give you an opportunity to correct that. Now, if you are a good person, what generally happens is you can expect bad things to happen to you in the physical world. And it sounds quite contrary to what you may have been told, but that's how it works. And the reason for that is that the better you are, the closer you are to perfection. It means that you're almost there. You need to be challenged more to kind of fine-tune your soul to get to the right place. That's why you often see someone who's on the way to do good, and so many times there's these obstacles and troubles and issues and hassles and worries and all kinds of things. You know, it's specifically because you're a good person that you are suffering. And that's something which is quite important to know. That don't ever think that Hashem doesn't like you, you know, is upset with you. It's not a punishment. It's there to rectify you. It's there to help you to improve. Right? And that's the lesson that Hashem showed Moshe Rabbeinu. He showed them the tefillin. Now the tefillin, right, that we wear on the head, it sits on the forehead, and it's got two straps which come down the front. And the concept that God was showing Moses, it says that God Himself wears tefillin, and there's one strap on the left and one on the right, but they join on the neck. And God says to Moses, I want to show you the knot of my neck. He turns his head around, and Moses sees God's knot, the back of his neck. And the idea behind that is that God was showing Moses, it looks completely contradictory. You see good people, bad things happening. Bad people, good things happening. It looks like it's completely chaotic. But if you look around and you see the back and you see what's really happening, you know, you see the knot, it's all coming from the same place. It means that God was showing Moses, I've got it all under control. I have a purpose and a reason, you know, why I am, you know, making this particular person, you know, suffer and what I'm doing with them. So Hashem has a purpose for each soul which comes into the world. And your journey that is unique. What you were made for, your soul is made of a particular energy, and you're not just you as you are by your name today. You are a combination of a multitude of lives that have been lived over many thousands of years. That's it's important to realize that we're all old souls. And what you've been challenged with today, and every single moment of every single day, it's all part of a much bigger picture, which you kind of not even aware of. You forgot about it. But you forgot that 3,000 years ago you had a challenge with a particular area, and today you'll be facing a problem which seems completely unrelated, but it's actually to fix a problem or a piece of you which can now grow through that challenge. So if you're not got any questions, if you have anything to add to that, but
Is there a way for us to find out, like, where we have been before, what eras we have come from?
yeah, there is. So there's actually two methods. One method which I'm particularly fond of is what they call regression hypnosis. Now, where people go back, and you can through, it's quite interesting, through regression hypnosis, find out who you've been in previous lives, and there's quite a lot of case studies, surrounding that, of people that have full, vivid recollections of who they were in different lifetimes, what they did, how they died. Very interesting stories. So there's been people that have been born with birthmarks, and this is quite a common phenomenon, where they'll have a birthmark, let's say, in their chest, and they go through regression hypnosis, and they found that they were shot or something in their chest in the previous life. That's how they died. This is almost like a sign, that they've come through. This is all a continuum. So that's something which is one method, that can be done. So if you're able to, and you have the opportunity to do it, I would recommend it, especially if there's an area in your life which you keep on getting stuck on. The chances are that there's some unresolved issue, especially if you can't figure it out on a day-to-day basis. There's a very high likelihood that there's something underlying, and it's a theme. And there's a lot of good books. If you want to message me up, so I can give you some resources of.
Okay.
Yes, so there's a lot of times people get stuck again, and not just in one lifetime, but in multiple lifetimes. Keep on falling in the same trap again and again. So that's the one method. The other method is more less sophisticated, and they say that every person is born with two traits which they find particularly difficult, and two which they find very easy. So the area which you find most challenging, that's kind of your tip or your cue of what God is expecting you to do in this life. So you almost know in yourself the area which challenges you. Each person's got a different challenge. So if you know that there's something which keeps on bothering you, the area you keep on failing in, that is most likely where you left off last time. And that's why you came to this world. And not just, and just to add to that, you didn't just come to this world, you came at this specific time period with this specific family, with this specific group of friends, that everything was timed to be exactly right, to fit the conditions for you to overcome that challenge. It was almost kind of all orchestrated so that you can fulfill that challenge. So those are like the two methods. Yeah. Anyone else?
Yes, I'd like to follow up on that, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so just a couple of things. One is you said earlier that we're here to accomplish a certain mission, sort of, there's a purpose why we're here. But at the same time, we've forgotten what it is, or we don't know what it is, and that's why we're suffering, because we can't work it out. So at what point do we know what it is we're here to do? What is it that is it? What does it take to hear what God's saying with that suffering, and what you're meant to be doing here? One. The other thing is, if we go into this regressive hypnosis and we figure out where we've been. I'm not sure what the purpose of that, apart from curiosity maybe. But if the reason that we've come back is to go to the next level of our soul's mission, then does it really matter what we were in the past?
Right.
I'm just curious about that.
Right. So
Then
that's
so just can I ask the final one about you saying that there's two areas, one that's most challenging and one that's easy. And if there's one area that's most challenging, that's probably where our work is.
yeah.
So my question is, how do I step into that work if when I'm faced with that challenge, I'm at my worst? You know, I'm not very capacitated.
Right, exactly. So let me try and address as much as possible. So there's a midrash in Parshas Pekudei that says that before a person is born, so the soul is given a guided tour of what's going to happen in the life. You get to meet all the different people that you're going to encounter in your life. You're going to experience all the different things that will happen to you. You're going to see where you're going to die, how you're going to die, where you're going to be buried. Your whole life is shown before you. And then just before you're born, a moment before you're born, they say that an angel touches your lip, and after that, you forget everything. So the point of that is actually that although we can figure out where we've been, the main mission is less so much. Hashem wants us to kind of think as a blank slate. So there's an element of coming in fresh, and not to be too overly focused, on the mission itself, but to actually do what's good for now. And through that process, you're going to end up doing what you're supposed to do in any ways. That's kind of why we are like wipe clean. Our memories are erased, so to say, of that information. We shouldn't just focus only on that, because there's going to be new missions, new goals for us to accomplish, and we shouldn't get overly caught up. We should just go with the flow. And in that area of weakness, you will learn how to become strong just by trying in that area. So if you're aware of it beforehand, and you've got a handicap in a particular area, and this has been your struggle for 300 years, you're going to give up much sooner if you don't even know that you've got it. And you might just beat it now, this time, because you're not aware that you've had such a handicap. And because you don't have that information, you're actually going to give it your full energy, and you might just do it this time around. So that's kind of it goes in tandem. That not knowing can be an advantage. That gives you more of an encouragement to give it your best and to keep on progressing. But that's the overall picture. Is to try and continuously improve yourself. Not to worry about what you've been, but where you're going to go. Where your areas that you can still succeed on. I hope that answers some of your questions.
Thanks.
Good. Anyone else?
Yes.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Just wondering with the reincarnations, each time you're reincarnated, is this right? The soul consists of the holy letters and unique combinations. Is that right for me to think that, or not?
Right. So the soul is almost like a ethereal body. It's made up of different pieces. So the soul has what you call a nefesh, a chaya, and a yechida. So there's different parts of it. You've got the lower parts of the soul, and there's 5 different parts of the soul, and each one has its own sections, almost like a body, like a spiritual body. So a person's, for example, can, just like you may have a weakness in your hand, you may not be able to use your left hand. So you would come to the world to exercise your left hand. That would be like a spiritual element of you that's getting, repaired or fixed through the challenges that you have in your life. But the soul it's formed through a combination of letters. But its end product is almost like a body, which is made up of a lot of pieces.
So then, with as you're reincarnated each time, is it a different energy that you're bringing into that life?
So you have the core personality of who you are remains the same, which means that you are you, and it's almost like you know who you are, and there's just different elements of you. It's like almost like different moods that you would have with different experiences. How you would like think of how would you react to a situation happened to you today, 25 years ago. Right? It's a different. It's almost like it's the same you, but it's because of your own growth, you now react in a different way. So you can say that you've grown. You've now, if you haven't changed anything, you've developed yourself into a more holistic human being. So that's kind of the goal, is to have these many experiences until you actually have thousands of years worth of experience. And that actually makes you a great human being, that you've actually experienced almost every single possible combination that a human being can experience, every kind of situation, every scenario, and you've now dealt with it in a correct and positive way.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Thank you.
yeah. Good. Yeah. Sir, I can't hear you.
Anybody else have any questions?
Okay, Carla, I can't. I think Carla wants to have a question. All right. Chris has a question as well.
Are we aware each time that we come back into this world on some like level?
Yes, we are quite aware of it. In a subconscious level, we are aware, and that's kind of how regression hypnosis works, is that there's always a trace which is left whenever we end a life, especially if we end a life in a traumatic way, it leaves a very big imprint. And we are aware of our multiple existences. So at some level, we continuously aware that we have been here before, we have what to do. And that's kind of often how we identify experiences, and we know that this has happened before, we've experienced something like that. So I would say yes. That's the short answer. All right.
But bothered by something that I can't quite reconcile, and it has to do with the notion that eventually everything will be all good. Somehow, I don't know where I picked that up, but it looks like, also with the coming of the Mashiach, everything's going to be great, everything is all perfect. But at the same time, when you were speaking earlier, you were talking about how we will all have an opportunity to go through all kinds of hardships, all kinds of suffering, and that's how it's designed. And
Yes.
when you were speaking in my head, I thought, oh, that means that it's almost like there's a set menu of hardships and horrors that every soul must go through. But if that's the case, how does that reconcile with the fact that, we're here to also make the world good? I mean, that means like it's not achievable, but in a sense, we're saying it is achievable.
Right, because I think there's a much grander scheme of things, meaning that over the massive thousands of year period, of God's grand scheme, and all the different souls and the combinations of events and world events, that is kind of the master plan. That we are here, we're making right here today a better place. And through doing that, each person in this particular incarnation is going through a particular experience. But ultimately, that's leading, we're climbing up a ladder, getting to that was kind of Jacob's dream of having this ladder, which extends and it goes up and up and up. We're continuously building. We don't necessarily see how we are fitting in. But every single experience that a person has is not meaningless. From the most mundane experience to the most difficult experience, every single thing is having an impact on the entire grand scheme of the world. I don't know if that answers it, but we'll need to follow through with that. Yeah. Okay, so, all right, so, okay. Yes, who wants to speak? I think we might be cut out for time, so I'll do it quick. Arya, you had a question, and Carla had a question as well. I don't know if you got your audio back. Arya, you had a question, or Carla? Can I hear you? Still can't hear you. All right, you can ask me, and I'll please God, I'll answer your question separately, but you can send me a message. Arya, can you hear me? You can? Okay, I can't hear you.
I can.
All right, I can hear you now. Yeah, your question.
Yeah. So, I didn't have a question. I'm on the mic, so I can only I don't have
All right, I didn't quite get that.
So